No one in his right mind will call for a Palestinian state between the river to the sea because they know what it means. If we want the free world to continue to be the free world, we have to stand behind Israel. People are willing to put their life on the edge because they know that they are fighting the good fight. And we need people to have this moral clarity.
Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan Fellow. I'm at 3L at the law school, and it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's guest, Mr. Simcha Rothman, who's an Israeli lawyer and politician. In 2021, Mr. Rothman was elected to the Israeli Knesset, and since 2023, he has served as chairman of the Knesset's Constitution, Law, and Justice Committee. In that capacity, he was one of the leaders behind the proposed Israeli judicial reform in 2023, a movement designed to reorient the balance of power in the Israeli branches of government and to enhance the democratic legitimacy of the Israeli judiciary. In 2023, the judiciary reform became a major flashpoint in Israeli politics, stirring debate and discussion within the Israeli public until the October 7th attacks. Born in Bnei Brak, Mr. Rothman has also been the founder of the Movement for Governability and Democracy and has long been a leading voice against judicial activism and in favor of the separation and balance of powers in the Israeli government. As you know, Shabtai has long been a home for diverse opinions and interesting discussions. It is something of a shame, or maybe a testament to the vibrancy of the American and Israeli democracies, that our first representative of the Israeli government to come to Yale since the October 7th attack has met with some reasonably sized protests, although I think it's a sign of leadership and openness to discourse that some of the people who used to be outside are now in the room and are willing to engage, and I think it's a testament to Shabtai's place on campus and Mr. Rothman's leadership as a leader and voice among the Israeli people and the Jewish people that he's agreed to have them come in tonight. So without further ado, can we all please give a large welcome to MK Simcha Rothman.
Thank you very much. I need this or not? This works? Okay. Thank you very much. Before I even start, when you see this wall, and I would like you to join me, there is for a prayer that we say every week twice, but since the beginning of the war we say it every day. It's for many years it was almost the constant situation of the Jewish people that some of us were in captivity. So it was part of the regular prayers. But for some years we thought that those ages are behind us, but now it became much more relevant. So I'll say it in English. It's Achenu Kol Beit Yisrael, that's the Hebrew, but I will say it in English because I know some of you don't know Hebrew or need some more up-to-date training. As for our brothers, the whole house of Israel, who are given over to trouble or captivity, whether they abide on the sea or on the dry land, may the All-Present have mercy upon them and bring them forth from trouble to enlargement, from darkness to light, and from subjection to redemption, now speedily and at a near time. When you see this wall here, so far away from the place this event took place, and one of the pictures on this wall is my cousin. And I wish, and we know that the prayers of all of you and the entire freedom-loving world is behind those people, and we hope they will return as soon as possible. And we as a government of the State of Israel, we should do everything in our powers to make it happen as soon as possible. Thank you all for attending, and Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Rabbi Shmuley, for arranging this amazing event, and my wife, Toby, and really, it's really heartwarming to see all of you here tonight, and thank you for that. I want to start with a story. 12 years ago, no, you know what? The story starts even earlier. Almost 20 years ago. It was the night of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is the ninth day of the Hebrew month of Av, which is the day that we remember almost all the bad things that happened in Jewish history. That 2 temples that were destroyed that day, and again, many other bad occasions in the history of the Jewish people. And so at the night of Tisha B'Av, it was the year 2005, and I was just about to begin my first year of law school, and I was at home with my wife and my firstborn child that was just 2 or 3 months old. And I thought to myself, it was the week that the disengagement from Gaza was supposed to take place. That was the week. And I used to live in Gush Katif, which is the Jewish, where the Jewish communities inside the Gaza Strip. I used to live there. I got mortar shells near my bed before it was so trendy. So I thought to myself, there is a protest against it. There are people, my friends, my rabbi, my friends from my neighbors, that they're going to be thrown out of their homes in the very near future, in the next 2 or 3 days. But I thought to myself, I have all the reasons to stay a little bit out of it. I have my wife is at home with a newborn, so she needs my help. I'm going to start law school, so it's better that I won't have too much trouble with the police. Not good for business. And I'm already not living in there, and my family is there, so I did my part. I lived there. I endangered my life being there. Haven't the Jewish people suffered enough? So I can stay at home. I don't have to go. And then the night of Tisha B'Av started, and I felt I have to go. I have to be with my friends. I have to be with my rabbi. I have to be with my ex-neighbors. I can't not be engaged in this terrible, terrible event that is going to take place, the disengagement from Gaza. And I started my trip towards Gush Katif to join my friends. And of course, the army was blocking the way because they didn't want the protest to be there. So the guy who took me there, I got off his car in Ofakim. Ofakim is the city. It's the most remote city from the Gaza Strip that the terrorists of the Nukba got into. And without knowing it, basically, I walked all night the same path, but in reverse, that the Nukba terrorists of Hamas did on October 7th. And I walked from Ofakim through the fields because I couldn't use the main roads because on the main roads there were blockades. And I went through the area that was the Nova Party right near the border of Gaza because that was the place where all the soldiers were there preparing for the evacuation of Gush Katif. And I went all the way. At the end I got into Gush Katif, and a few days after we were kicked out of there by the Israeli army, and the gates of Gaza were closed behind us. The gates of Gaza is a term that if you read the book of Judges, the gates of Gaza have some historical significance. That was what Shimshon, Samson, he was carrying it all over his shoulders. Gates of Gaza were closed behind us after a few days. And for that matter, there was a heavy, very heated debate. Is it a good idea? Is it good for security? Is it bad for security? Where should the border pass if for some reason there is disengagement from Gaza? Should Israel keep to itself the Philadelphia line? All the things that are now in the news were then on the news too. And the state of Israel decided, and I thought it was a very, very big mistake. The state of Israel decided to go back basically to the green line, to the line of 67 borders, and to the last meter, to say if there is a problem with quote-unquote occupation, okay, let's get out. Let's get out. And that was the promise was, you will just get out and you will have a Singapore of the Middle East right near you. And people are laughing now. People were not laughing then. That was the selling point. And so we left. And people that are now saying you should give the Palestinian Authority to have the control of Gaza after the war, we gave the control to the Palestinian Authority because the Palestinian Authority were the power then in Gaza. And then Hamas took over, and to say took over is not the right term because Hamas was always enjoying the support of vast majority of people in Gaza and people in Judea and Samaria. They support Hamas. So Hamas took over, it's not the right term. Hamas took what rightfully his. The population there supports Hamas. We helped the Palestinian Authority take over the Palestinians because they don't enjoy the majorities. There is a reason Israel had 5 elections in the past 3 years. They did not have elections for, I don't know how long, because they know what will be the outcome of an election. Outcome of an election in the Palestinian Authority in Gaza or in Judea and Samaria is Hamas. No questions about it. So Hamas took over, and the rest is history. But no, the rest is reality. The rest is the present. And actually, anyone with, I would say, a little bit of foresight, ideas, understanding the Middle East, could have known that would be the outcome. And then it started over and over and over and over again, every time, shootings, appeasing the terror, giving them something, shooting again, appeasing it again, until October 7th. What happened on October 7th? On October 7th, of course, everyone can talk about and ask, and maybe that will be some of the questions that will be asked. Where was the army? Where was the military? Where was the intelligence? And all solid questions. Where were the decision makers? Legitimate questions. And I'm getting asked those questions in Israel too. And people that are angry, or people that their loved ones are here on the wall, or people who their loved ones died, either on October 7th, either in Gaza afterwards, they ask, why didn't you do anything? Not me personally, I'm not the prime minister, I'm not the minister of defense, but doesn't matter, we're a government, we're responsible. Why didn't you do anything? And I tell them, it's a good question. But I want to ask you, I'm a Jew, so if you ask a question, and definitely a good one, I'll try to ask back. And the question I asked is, let's imagine, I don't want to say it on the government that I'm part of, because then people will say I make excuses, okay? Let's say last government that I was in the opposition, okay? It's really a question about the state of Israel. It's not a question about this government or that government. And it's a question that I would like to hear, or maybe see on your faces what you would think the answer is. What would happen if a year, then it's not under our government, or a few months, then it's our government, before October 7th, the prime minister, be it Netanyahu, Yair Lapid, Bennett, or any other, would go in a press conference and say, we have intelligence that Hamas wants to attack our people. They want to go inside our communities, to rape, to murder, to torture them down, and they want to take over and kill us all. They want to commit genocide. And therefore, while we speak now, our forces started an invasion to Gaza in order to take it over and to make sure this threat is no more. What do you think would happen here in Yale? Okay, I got the answer. You got the answer. What would you think? You know what? Yale, okay, no. All the left of the Ivy League. Okay. What will happen in Israel? What would I do? So, okay, I am the right, the far right, the extreme right, whatever you want. So I would be happy, okay? What would the center of Israel would say? Are you crazy? Are you starting a war now? What are you doing? Everything is so quiet. It's already 5 days, no rocket was shot at Israel. So why are you going and starting a war all of a sudden? And that would be the reaction. We are laughing now because we know the end of the story, but everyone knows that would be the reaction. I'm not even talking about the UN resolutions, the Security Council doing what they can, of course, to prevent Israel from defending itself, as they usually do, unless the US vetoes it. Thank you for that. And that would be the case. And why is that? And I think the answer can go into looking what's happening in Israel and trying to figure it out what's going on in Israel. Oh, Israel like this, Israel like that, human rights issues, the Jewish state, don't behave the way we want to. It could be different answers. But there will all be wrong answers. Because the state of Israel is in a constant state of emergency. We actually thought about changing the name, State of Israel, state of emergency, because we are in a constant state of emergency. And we're I'm a constitutional lawyer, so we are actually in a state of emergency since 1948. We did not ever cancel it because we are in a state of emergency. Okay, so we have different names for the different states of emergencies that we are in. But we are in a constant state of emergency. But then I will ask you, do you address the dangers that exist near you, that threaten your way of life? I don't think so. Because the same evil that on October 7th came to our communities exists in many other places around the world, and we do nothing. It exists. I just sent this video to some people recently of an imam in a mosque here in Wisconsin. I know here is not Wisconsin, but here in the U.S., in Wisconsin, saying all the Muslims should kill all the Jews. He's not even using euphemism for that. He used to have the politeness to say Zionists, but so, and what do we do about it? There are people here chanting, from the river to the sea, Palestine would be free, right? Free of what? Free of Jews. We know what's from the river to the sea, Palestine would be free means. It means free of Jews. It's calling for an ethnic cleansing. It's for a genocide. That's what this chant means. People chant it everywhere. So in Germany, they outlawed it. In the US, free speech is very important, I know. I'm all for it also. But maybe in some situation, people will understand that this is actually support of terror and genocide and needs to be addressed in some way. I said in a hearing in my committee a few weeks ago that apparently the last country in the world that will ban this chant and make it punishable will be the state of Israel. But because this chant is actually the realities that we live in. And I think that what October 7th did to the people of Israel, that in one day, one very clear grasp of reality, an entire country moved to understand that ideology is important, but reality is more. And in fact, you saw Monty Python, that the guy goes and to the market and they ask for a price and he pays it and says, no, you have to fight with me about something, right? I miss it a little bit because in the Knesset now no one fights with me. Everyone agrees that the state of Israel cannot exist with a Palestinian state, or which will be a Hamas state in a second. So the idea that so for many years, people, when I said two-state solution is a three words lie. It's not two, it's not a state, and it's definitely not a solution. But, and people said, oh, what this guy is talking about? Of course, two-state solution. Everyone speaks about two-state solution. In Israel now, there is No one in his right mind will call for a Palestinian state between the river to the sea because they know what it means. Ideologically, it might be a good idea. Ideologically, everyone wants to be, it's better to be rich and healthy than to be poor and sick. Everyone wants good things. Okay. But in reality, a Palestinian state it means the destruction of the state of Israel. You know who said this sentence? Palestinian state will be only on the ashes of the state of Israel. Who said this? Take your wild guess. Anyone wants to try? No, but close. He got the same Nobel Prize. Yitzhak Rabin. He said it. Because he understood that you cannot have a Palestinian state because it immediately will become a terror state. And it immediately, what we saw on October 7th in the surrounding of Gaza would be in the entire state of Israel. So you can say occupation is bad if you think that it's an occupation. You can say occupation is good if you think this is our homeland when we are the indigenous people of the land of Israel. This debate is very interesting theoretically. Maybe one day it will have some practical outcomes. But today is not this day. Today, everyone understands in Israel that either the state of Israel will control the land, at least in the military level. There is no existence for the state of Israel. Everyone understands it. The question is, for me it's very surprising that the world understands it also. The world understands it also, meaning the United States. Many people say it openly. The administration says, okay, do this, but don't call for ceasefire because they understand we need to eliminate the threat on our communities and our people. The European Parliament just had this resolution that we need to operate to eliminate Hamas. So, for me, it's a sign of hope. It's a sign that when you know what's evil and what's good, most people choose good. There is the famous debate: man is good, man is evil. Mankind, not man specifically, of course. But this brings me a lot. That gives me a lot of hope. That in the face, when you see good and you see evil. Most people, even around the world, even in the most cynical place of foreign affairs, people understand that they need to take. If they have to take sides, they take the side of the good versus the evil. Apparently, what the people who have real-world understanding of the situation, which are the leaders of the world, so they have some pressures, they have some political campaigns that they need to answer to, but generally speaking, they understand that if we want the free world to continue to be the free world, we have to stand behind Israel. Now, I think that's very important. The same kind of clear view of reality was here in the U.S. after 9/11. It was, and it held some time until some people forgot the lesson. But it held, and for quite some time. This clear view was in World War II. We are now in my committee, we are talking about what are the ways in the state of Israel needs to adopt to prosecute the terrorists of October 7th, the Nukba terrorists, the people who got into Israel and did those horrible things that you all know about. And if you look for equivalents, you immediately have to go, then you have to go to the Nuremberg trials, because that was basically the last time the world really faced a pure evil, and stood against it, united. But this clarity that exists in the real world, in some places, and that was the amazing thing for me when I saw the hearing in Congress of the leadership of Harvard or Penn, that this clarity that exists in the real world apparently in the academia does not exist, or depends on context. And this clarity, when we're talking you're talking about the places that teaches the next generation of leadership. Most of the high echelon of the state of Israel went to Kennedy School in Harvard and came back apparently with less moral clarity that they went in to begin with. And that's the case in many other places. And you need to have moral clarity. Otherwise, you can't fight. No one will put his life in danger and run to the face of the fire in Gaza and leave his family behind for some theoretical ideas that he went and learned in law school in Israel or in Yale or in somewhere else. No one will endanger his life for that. People are willing to put their life on the edge because they know that they're fighting the good fight. And we need people to have this moral clarity. We need them because otherwise we wouldn't be able to stand against the evil. And when we don't stand against the evil, we have October 7th. When we put down our guards, we have October 7th. We have this war. So I came here to try to pass this feeling that in Israel is very present. You walk the streets, you feel it. Just imagine the numbers. I just saw the updated number. 50,000 people in Israel were injured in some way. Some very minor wounds, some, of course, died from that. But 50,000 in a small country, 50,000. The equivalent in the US would be how much? 2? I think a little bit more. I think it would be more like 10 million. It's everyone in Israel has a relative or a friend that is either on this wall or in Gaza now fighting or died in October 7th or were injured. Almost everyone. So we touched everyone. And we need to wake up. We need really, as the entire world, we need to wake up so it won't happen to all around the world. There is the cliche, the West is next, that some people know that's the fact. That's the threat that people that go to sleep and wake up in the morning thinking we see what happened on October 7th, that's not horrifying for us. That's a plan. Seems like a plan. And in order to stop that, we need this moral clarity. I'll soon open to questions, but I want to share another experience that I had in an interview. I think this interview was for the BBC. I think it was even before the beginning of the actual troops going into Gaza. But the plans were already set up. And the interviewer asked me, you say you want to destroy Hamas. How can you do it? There are civilians there. And I asked her, you're BBC, right? You're from the UK, from Britain. You destroyed the Nazis. There were civilians there, right? You can destroy, I said it's an idea. The Nazis were an idea also. You can destroy an idea or eliminate the threat that comes from an idea using military force, despite the fact there are civilians there. You try to minimize the casualties, if you try. I'm not sure the UK tried so much. We try. But it's not an obstacle. And if it's an obstacle that you can pass. It's not a dead end. And she said, yeah, but international law was not the same in 1942 or 1939. It was not the same. So I told her, first, I'm not sure I agree with you on this, how much the customary international law has changed on wars like that. So I'm not sure I agree. But let's assume that you are right. Let's assume that the international law of war, of armed conflict, has changed since 1945 or 1942 or 39 or whatever you want to put the finger on the date. What do you mean? You mean that if international law was the same that is today in 1942, you would let the Nazi win? Is that what you offer? If that what international law makes you a world under Nazi control, then why do you want to abide to it? What kind of law is that? What kind of morale is this that will let evil prevail? Apparently, you're either wrong in what international law says, or if that's what it says, I don't want to listen to it. So with the knowledge I got on the international law, I think she's wrong. Thank God. That's why I can make a war and still keep international law, because I think she's wrong. But the idea, even the premise, that in order to abide to some strange rules, you will let evil prevail, that's the lack of moral clarity that we all need in order that good will prevail over the evil. And because today, as Rabbi Shmuley said, today is Tu B'Shvat, and we talked about morale, and this week, apparently on Friday, I heard that there is a tribunal sitting in The Hague that thinks that they can teach the Jewish people what is the morale, what's the moral way to fight a war. So what Rabbi Shmuley said, he says that man is like tree, ki adam etz hasadeh, the man is like a tree. So this verse is the first rule that I know of the rules of armed conflict. It comes from the full sentence is that when you put a blockade, right, a blockade or barricade on a city, you don't destroy the trees that surround it to use for your barricade, to barricade the city. Don't destroy the fruits, the fruit-bearing trees, because a tree is like a man is like tree. You need to think about the future. Even when you're conducting a war, think about the future, and the best way to think about future is people and trees. Ki adam etz hasadeh. Man is like tree, even when you conduct a war. So when we're sitting here on the day of Tu B'Shvat, the day of the new year for trees, we need to remember that the Jewish people, who is the people who taught the entire world how to have a just war and how to do it in humane way. No one ever in the ancient world would think that you need to have rules of war besides the Jewish people. And the reason I know the verse more than I know other verses is because this is my parsha. This is what I read when I became bar mitzvah. So it's my parsha. But the entire idea that even when you conduct a war, there are higher rules, came from us. We don't need the Hague to teach us how to conduct a war. But we do need to teach the world what moral clarity is. And I hope that you will help each and every one of you in your position, whatever position you take in life today or in the future, to gain moral clarity, because that's what the world needs. Questions? Questions?
Thank you for being here. My name is Eli Altman. I'm a junior in the college. My question is about the goals of the current conflict. In short, what would a success look like? Is success eliminating every single member of Hamas? Is that possible? Is success returning all of the hostages? I understand that all of these things are goals at the same time, but if they are not all mutually possible, what is the top priority of the Israeli government? And critically, how will we know that we have reached success when we get there? And if we know that we cannot reach success, how do we know when to stop?
So you asked if it's to eliminate Hamas to get the hostages. Of course, the answer is yes. And I think I don't think there is contradiction between those two goals. I don't think you can get the hostages without eliminating or getting very close to eliminate Hamas. I think that you asked how do we know that we get there is one question. I think that we know that we get there when the hostages will be back. We'll know, of course, but that's one way. But also, I said it in the beginning of the war, and people misinterpreted it. I said, when a Jewish child can walk the streets of Gaza. So people said, he wants the Jews to live in Gaza. I'm not against, but that was not the point. The point was, to the best of my knowledge, we do not occupy Berlin, or New York, or New Haven. But I hope that a Jewish child can walk the streets of New York, New Haven, or Berlin. In 1944, a Jewish child could not walk the streets of Berlin. In 1946, he could. We didn't have to occupy. The State of Israel did not occupy Berlin in 1946. For this reason, we want to occupy everything, but we weren't exist then. So we were not in existence, so we couldn't, even if we wanted. But the Jewish child could walk the streets. Why? Because that's a sign that you have eliminated the threat. I know so that's utopian view. So let's not talk about a child, an adult. Let's talk about a military vehicle that will roam the streets without any Hamas operative shooting at him. Okay, I'm just for the safety of the people of the area. We can get there. How do I know that we can get there? Because we did get there in Judea and Samaria, in Operation Chomat Magen in 2002. And we basically eliminated the terror threat that came from Judea and Samaria, not entirely, not 100%, but we moved from more than 1,000 casualties in a very short period of time. It took some time, but in 2018, 2019, it was the year that was the least casualties from terror since 1950 something. So it's possible. And I have a story on that was always amazing to me, because we were there and we gave it up, and that's something that I really don't understand. We were there. There was a head of, I don't remember the exact branch. They change the name all the time. The Popular Front of Palestine or something, or the People Popular Front, or the Popular. But there was a leader of them who was a very, the IDF was looking for him very actively in order to kill him. His name was Zacharias Beidi. And he basically had some very strange woman, Jewish woman, that admire her, despite the fact that he was a very dangerous terrorist. That her name was Tali Fahima. She was a Jew, and he was the head of the armed forces in Jenin of this, and she, I think she volunteered to be his human shield or something. A very strange situation. But after a few years of the operation of the IDF, and when he understood that it's very dangerous to be on this organization. The life expectancy, let's say, was shortening all the time if you are an operative of this organization. So he came to Israel, and there was an agreement: stop terror, and you will be out of our wanted list. And he did. He had to commit not to leave Jenin or something, and without permission from the army, and he basically gave up on the fight. And then, after a few years, he asked for permission. He needed to have his glasses fixed somewhere else that is not Jenin. He was basically becoming a normal citizen of Judea and Samaria, with not a connection to terror. He was very condemned by his Jewish girlfriend that he's basically betrayed the cause of the Palestinian people. She was condemning him because he stopped being a terrorist. After a few years, he was interviewed and he said, "I have no future here. I want to go to somewhere else. They don't let me because I'm a terrorist. But I wish to go somewhere else. I have no future here." Basically lost hope, became from a very high-ranking terrorist, became a normal citizen in the Palestinian Authority, working for a living like a normal person. And then the State of Israel stopped hunting down terrorists. And after a few years, he returned, and now he's again a terrorist. I think he was. I don't know his current status. I did not follow. But he came back to terror. What creates terror is hope. And it's not despair. Terror comes from hope. And the second the Hamas will lose the hope that from the river to the sea, Palestine would be free of Jews, they will stop it. They will stop it. And the people who won't stop it will have to kill. Okay, but they will stop it. And it will happen way faster than you can imagine once we are strong on this. If we start pulling back, if we start appeasing them, if we start saying, take money from Qatar and prosper, but we won't interfere, and we will see that you are inciting for terror, see that you are paying salaries to terrorists, see that you are teaching your children to kill Jews just because they're Jews, and we are quiet about it, it will come back. So we need to stand strong with this moral clarity to make sure that terror is eliminated and stays eliminated. It's not something that will happen over a day. Your last question said, when do we know it's not a reachable goal and stop, right? If it's not a reachable goal, we will know it because we will be dead. We will know. The state of Israel will not be able to exist if she will give up on the fight on terror. It's not an option. And sadly, we will all know. You will all know. The entire free world will know. If a free country cannot fight terror and gives up on the fight, everyone will know.